Malcolm X, the greatest significance can be attached to the assassination of Malcolm X because he was a true revolutionary leader. All of this is dismantling the civil rights movement, being dismantled because we did not understand the movement in the first place. Do not understand. You can build a house, but it has to have a foundation. The foundation is the political meaning of its existence. And this is what Malcolm X called for in his famous message to the grassroots. Revolution is about land. It's about nation. We were asking for an integrated ice cream cone, an integrated toilet, an integrated hamburger. But we did not call for nation status. All of the African people in the United States put together are more than 5 states in the Caribbean. Not in the Caribbean, in the Scandinavia. So you're more than a nation, you're more than 5 nations. All of the Jewish people in the world, and you can get this from the United Nations yearbook and from their yearbook, all of the Jewish people on the face of the earth are less than 1/2 of the black population in the United States. Israel gets 10 times more aid than all the African nations in the world put together. They got that political thing together. We don't have ours together. They understand the one thing that we still grapple with, the concept of nation formation and nation management and nation significance. In essence, that's about all the Garvey message was about. And that's why he had to be literally chased out of Jamaica. And if he were alive today, he'd still be chased out of Jamaica. Now, people have tried to resolve the problem of Marcus Garvey by saying 8 American intellects signed a petition for him to leave the United States. That's true. Asking for his deportation, that's true. Are you willing to deal with the fact that as high as 25% of the officers or the people, the personnel administering the Garvey program on the FBI payroll, and none of them were black Americans? We're ready to deal with that? Well, you're saying that he brought black Americans a program. He came here and found us with a wishbone and gave us a backbone, which is a lie. But are you ready to deal with the Caribbean betrayal of Marcus Garvey? No, you're not ready to deal with it. Because people have propagandized your mind into assuming that he failed solely because 8 black American intellects signed a letter to the president asking for his deportation. None of them had any power. And the president didn't even answer the letter. We are people who hesitate to deal with truth. But as King, with King gone, Malcolm gone, most of the gains were being taken away. Johnson no longer in the White House, a stubborn old Southerner who got some good things done, although he never could learn how to stop calling you. He couldn't even say nigger, he said negro, you know. But he got some good things done. And so did Truman. I have no love affair with either one of them, but I do have a love affair with truth. This is truth. The legislation that came through Truman and through Johnson did more for us than any two presidents ever to sit in the White House in this country. That don't mean that I like them too much as Southerners and still racist bigots, but enlightened enough to realize it was time for a change. Once the United States saw the civil rights workers, men like Bob Moses, others, James Foreman, going to Africa, coming back and praising Africa, they began to set up a cleavage, a propaganda cleavage between the black American and the African, the black American and the Caribbean American. That cleavage still exists. It is useless. It is uncalled for. It is absolutely stupid. Makes no sense at all. All of us are reacting to different slave masters. And when we try to prove that one is different from the other, better than the other, all we are saying is that my slave master was better than your slave master. But if you're against all slave masters, you don't get into stupid conversations like this. And sometimes we get to the point so that those people have no culture. Neither one of us have an African culture. Both of us have the manners of our slave master. Now, we were talking about an African culture, maybe we'd have something to discuss. If we were talking about the difference in African culture, we're talking about the difference in the manners of our master. That's all we're talking about. We say, we won't do things like this because this is not part of our culture. What culture are you talking about? We're talking about your African culture or your British inherited culture? Now, the United States had effectively diffused the most political African group in the world. The most political African group in the world, not because they've got any super brain, the most political because they had to do certain things in order to survive that other African people did not have to do. The black American built more institutions, independent institutions, including a great church institution, the largest property owning group being the church and its adjacent organization, not because we are that astute, but because we either had to build our own schools, or have no schools at all. Now in the West Indies, you went to a school that was partly built by the British because they controlled the school. A curricula designed solely by the British because they controlled the school and controlled the mind along with it. Now our mind was being controlled also by in the same method, but we exercised some independence because we did have a few schools that we built with our resources and we maintained partly with our resources. Because we either had to get schools that way or have no schools at all. And while in the British area they made a point to make schools, that the schools existed, but they controlled the schools and subsequently controlled the mind. Our mind was controlled too, still is, as yours still are controlled. In a different way.